We are back. You know who it is, the dynamic duo with another unfiltered conversations. You already know who we are, so I don't feel like I got to introduce ourselves now every time.
Right. And in case you don't, lower third.
Right. In case you don't, Yolanda.
Right.
And Kelly Mack.
Yes.
So, as you said, we have another beautiful guest on the couch tonight. Mm-hmm. And tonight is about another very important topic, which is about life insurance.
Oh, my gosh.
And our life policies and our wills and things of the nature. And it's not about, putting a gloom and predicting death or talking about death or anything like that per se, but there are things that we need to be prepared for.
Absolutely, because it's the inevitable.
Right.
If it's not you first, it's going to be somebody you love.
Exactly.
So why not be prepared?
Yeah. And so our guest, Tina Knox, is a guru, a life insurance expert guru, where you have all those type of things. And so she's going to be sharing some insight and information with us.
Absolutely.
On things that we need to know.
Right.
The things that we can start doing now if you have not already have a will or a life policy in place, the best one to get in place, and making sure that you have her contact information so you can reach out to her directly. Correct. So we're going to get right into it. Go ahead, Kelly Mack. Let's fire off with the questions.
Let's go. You and I talk about this all the time because we've been through some things, and I believe that you can either A, make the mistakes yourself, or you can learn from the mistakes of others.
Right.
So, one thing that I despise is when somebody passes and it's all over social media. We don't have no money to put them in the grave. We're looking for donations. GoFundMe. Mm-hmm. Now, I understand tragedies happen, specifically when children die young, specifically when something suddenly happens. But let's be honest, death cannot be predicted.
Right.
You're not going to necessarily live to be 90. And if you do live to be 90, then what?
Right.
And are you going to still have people that know what your wishes are? Mm-hmm. So let's talk first and foremost about life insurance policies. A lot of people don't understand that Starbucks money that you spend every day, $5-6, a few days of that will cover your premium for the month.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So where would you like me to start, ladies?
Let's start. Yeah. How do you get this life insurance policy, and how affordable is it actually to get one?
It's actually very affordable. So what I'd like to do is just take a few minutes to give you guys real life examples.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so as it relates to life insurance, there's really just two main life insurance policies, and then of course you have the IULs, or what we call universal life. Okay. I'm going to start with whole life first, and I like to give an example because I think that helps people have a better understanding.
Yes.
So with whole life, traditionally we have talked about burial, right? Some of the topics some of the points you made related to burial. But what people don't realize is that people have used whole life to preserve wealth for years, right? Traditionally, whole life is used for final expenses. So for example, even if you're single with no kids, if you don't have the money to take care of yourself, you might want to consider a small whole life policy or even a term policy because you're young and healthy. Okay. But most people, when they think of whole life, they do think of final expense, right? Final resting. But what I want the listeners to know, and we don't have time to get into it today, but what I want them to know is that you should also look into life insurance as a way to save money. It's a safe money savings plan. It's that safe money. It's not in the market, and it's not going to grow like the market.
Right.
But for people that are conservative, whole life is a good option.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Let's talk about that and the saving piece of that.
The saving piece. So basically, it's a built-in savings account. It's going to come out of your account every single month. Of course, you have the high interest savings accounts that people talk about a lot now. Of course, everyone knows about the stock market, but you actually can put $500 or more into a whole life policy. Right. There are people that are paying bills from their whole life policies. Okay. You hear about people leaving wealth to institutions and various, businesses through their whole life policy.
Right. Yeah, so let's talk rates. Rates. I'll be honest, I have a policy that few $100,000, one of my policies, and it's less than $40 a month.
Right.
So and it's from a very reputable provider.
Right.
And I'm not throwing numbers out there, for
and
braggadocious purposes. That's not who I am, but more for informative purposes.
Right.
Me personally, I don't want nobody to become a millionaire when I die because I don't want you to plot my death.
Right.
However,
I want your family to become a millionaire.
Right. Well, and that's cool. So let's talk about that. How do we do that?
So let's talk
because
about
people feel funny sometimes in the family when you talk about life insurance,
It's like,
why
you
you think
know,
I'm
we
the
have
guy?
to-
many people are worth more debt than life.
Exactly.
So we have to break the barriers, and we have to also change the mindset behind that.
Okay.
So, just to touch on pricing, any insurance agent, and I'm what you call a field agent. So I'm not like what you see on TV.
Right,
We don't
right.
even have access to even sell those policies. I'm not going to go there.
Okay.
But I'm a field agent. I have 30 to 40 insurance companies that I can write. We have the ability to write whatever your budget is. So if someone tells me I can afford $25, I'm going to see what I can get them for $25.
Gotcha.
Okay.
But I do want to touch on another insurance policy, which is term life.
Okay.
When you think about term life, you want to think about mitigating risk. You want to make sure, okay, I have a mortgage, I have children to raise. You might have someone who's dependent on your income in some capacity. You may have parents that depend on your money. So term is good for that. Term is very inexpensive, and you can purchase a term from 10 years all the way up to 30 years. And honestly, let's say you want to get rid of that term at some point because maybe you're debt free and you've built up your assets, you can do that.
Yeah.
But term is very important. And the unfortunate part, a lot of people, because they have a job, they depend on the job
life insurance
for
policy.
the insurance.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not enough. I recommend that you have at least 7 to 10 years of your income in a term policy when you're in your childbearing ages, when you have debt.
Yeah.
So those are some things to think about. So every single policy has its use.
Yeah.
Every single policy has its use.
So if you make $50,000 a year, you should have at least a $350,000
at
policy.
bare minimum.
Yeah,
So
bare
just do
minimum.
the math. And there's a
And that's if you have children. But if your children
Right.
are grown and
Right.
like you said, your house is paid off, your
Right.
car is paid
Right.
off, then you can look at other options.
You can look at other options. You can
Okay.
do other things. And so that leads us to the IUL.
Okay.
Right? So that became popular around, I started hearing a rumble in 2019. Honestly, I was not aware of the IUL until 12 years ago when I got in this industry.
Yeah.
And what I realized is that there were people out there buying homes and doing all types of things with an IUL. They were also using that as a savings account. So with a 529 plan, which is very popular, right, for college education. But if you do not use that for education, they will penalize you.
Yes.
So a lot of people started putting their money in an IUL to save for college. The thing about it, it trades like the stock market, right? But it's not in the stock market. But I'm going to say it grows along the index or whatever the agent puts it in.
Yeah.
But if the market goes down, that policy does not lose money.
Okay, well that's
it does
good.
not lose money. There's a floor, right? Versus if you put the money in the market.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to advocate one way or the other.
Right.
Anytime I'm
We're here to
dealing
talk
with a
options.
client,
Yeah.
you should always make sure that your agent is doing what's best for you and not what's best for their commission check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll have some people say, "Oh, whole life's bad." Well, it depends. I don't think any of them are bad, or it just depends on the individual situation.
Right.
Also, with the IUL, people will use it to save for retirement.
Yeah.
There are some people that are just very conservative. It's way better than a savings account.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
You see all the commercials and stuff that are going
do,
on.
yeah.
They're pushing it through the talk shows every 5 minutes. Colonial Penn or someone else. What do you feel about those policies? I heard you mention a minute ago. I'm not going to talk about the ones that's on TV. Don't say about those. But what are your thoughts?
I don't believe in bad mouthing anyone.
Right. We're not bad. This is it's
But
unfiltered conversation and information.
Yes. We keep it real.
Here's
Raw
what I
dog.
want to say. Here's what I want to say. It really depends. So I'm not a big advocate of policies that will increase over time. So as long as you buy a policy on TV that does not increase over time, I'm okay with it.
Okay, when you say increase, are we talking about the payout increases
the
or
payment,
the premium
the
every
premium,
month?
the
Okay.
premium.
Okay.
So you have some policies that will increase yearly. You have some that will increase every 5 years.
Yes.
And what I was touching on earlier, I don't even have access to sell those policies.
Okay.
So I don't know. Us field agents, we don't even have access to that. Also, I'm not a big fan of, hey, you can get insurance for $10. That's not realistic, okay?
Right.
Okay.
Sometimes they're talking about units,
Yeah.
$10 per unit.
Yeah.
But they're able to get away with that. That's not something that I could
Right.
do. I could be fined. I could lose my license.
Yeah. All right.
And
so
I think it's good to say that, because I think that is sometimes a lot of the misconception that is pushed through media, pushed
Right.
through TV.
Correct.
But having someone like you on the couch that people can talk to and that actually call up and get the
Right.
right information and right advice.
yes,
Right.
instead of talking to an agent in another country.
Yeah.
That
Right.
part.
Oh, you know, I know.
Right. Right.
Another thing I wanted to touch on too that's not really spoken about, but it's also a life insurance product. It's called a fixed annuity. So basically, that's not my area that I focus on.
Right.
But if you wanted to put money in a fixed annuity, it's like having your own pension.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
That's good stuff. Now, let me ask you this. Recently, we had a loved one that passed in the family, and they did have a pretty nice life insurance policy. However, the premium had increased to nearly $1,000 just months before they passed, maybe a couple years before they had passed. So the policy was null and void. And the question was, why did it go from $80 a month to almost $1,000 a month at a certain age? How does that happen?
Yeah.
And how can you keep that from happening?
They keep that from happening by buying it from a field agent. Buy
Buying it
insurance
from you.
from a local
Okay.
agent. Yes, buy from me. 704-363-5420.
Get that plug out.
So, of course, today we're talking all about life insurance and wills and trust and, how to prepare for the inevitable. Of course, as we said in the beginning of the episode, we don't want to speak death, but we do know that everybody has a time to die and a time to be born and
Might as
live
well
in
be
between,
prepared.
right? So we got to be prepared. So going back to life insurance, I guess one of the first things we need to talk about is age. Obviously, I've seen so many different rates, and they are all contingent on age.
Yes.
Some policies you have to have a physical for, some you don't. Let's
Correct.
talk about that.
Okay, so basically that's just criteria. I'm going to go over basics. So insurance companies are looking at risk factors, right? So they're looking at your age.
Okay.
They're going to review your driving history. They're going to review your criminal history, your health, health background, prescriptions and things like that. And now there's technology, right? So back in the day, people could lie and say whatever.
Right.
So if you're a smoker, please say you're a smoker, because they have a 2-year contestability. It's best to just
How
tell
do they
the
know that
truth.
you're a
Right.
smoker? If you say I'm not, how do they find out you are?
And then
Right.
depending on what smoker. Suppose you're not a
Okay,
cigarette
I'm talking
smoker.
about cigarettes.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm talking about if you're not a
Okay.
cigarette smoker.
So you okay if you got that little THC?
I am not going there.
or
but
CBD.
But really, when they're thinking about, they
Right,
are
Delta
starting.
eight,
They
Delta nine.
you know what? I have seen those on the applications now.
You have?
I have seen it on the applications. Men also pay more.
Yes,
so
I've noticed
men
that.
and boys.
Why is that?
risk factor? Risk
Because
factor.
they get hurt.
They run around, they speed, they do
Yeah.
all the things that they do.
Drink and drive.
You know,
Yeah.
and not to say that women don't make
May just
risk,
do in the higher numbers.
but they are a little bit
Yeah.
riskier,
Yeah.
so they
Yeah.
actually have to pay more money. So,
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing we can do about that.
So if you get a policy today for
Uh-huh.
let's say $50 a month, does it go up every year when
No.
you get older?
Well, if you go buy it off the TV
Okay.
and
Then
not
it will.
me,
Yeah.
Right.
then there's a possibility.
So do your
that it
rates
will.
never fluctuate?
No, it's called level.
Okay.
It's level premiums.
Okay.
So
That's good to know.
that is a terminology that your audience could ask an agent, is this level?
Okay.
Level means that the payment will never change.
Okay,
That's
excellent.
really good
Absolutely.
information.
Yeah. So being prepared. Let's talk about, of course, the policies, but also wills.
Okay.
I know. Personal story. Told my husband's mother passed. It's been several years now. At least 17, 18 years. But one of the things that made that transition so easy and so seamless was her will
Right.
and her life insurance.
Right.
She was prepared.
She
Right.
was prepared down to the color she wanted to wear, who she wanted to speak at her funeral, the plot was paid for, where it was, everything, whatever was supposed to be coming from the Eastern Stars, because she was an Eastern Star.
wow.
Like she had to lay down on
Right.
who you supposed to get this money from.
Right.
That's
And how-
amazing, though, because we don't hear that often.
We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. You know. So
Wow.
speak about the importance of
Absolutely.
that and those, going working
Absolutely.
inside, coinciding with one another.
Absolutely. And what I want to say is that because I'm not a licensed attorney, I'm going to give you the very minimum basics of what the listeners should think about.
Right.
So when you talk about a living will, you also want to make sure that you have a healthcare power of attorney, which covers the body.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
What you want. Do you want to be resuscitated? Things of that nature.
These things are important.
Exactly.
Trust me, you do not want to make those
Right.
decisions when you're emotional about
Right.
this person being in
Exactly.
that state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So your healthcare power of attorney, you also want to have a durable power of attorney. A durable power of attorney is going to take care of the assets, right? Some of the assets, like where does this go? Where does that go?
Right,
Right.
right.
So it's the living will, the healthcare power of attorney, durable power of attorney.
Okay.
Now, also you want to put your assets, if possible, because this is expensive, this part, in a trust if
Yes.
you can. Okay. And I don't want to go too deep into that because I'm not a licensed attorney, but go to your licensed attorney
Yes.
and say, hey, I need a living will, I need a healthcare power of attorney, durable power of attorney,
Yeah.
and I want to put my assets in a trust. And that's been really popular with the millennials. I have to give them credit.
Okay, they are on it.
They are
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
They are on it. They are on it.
And it doesn't just benefit you in death. It benefits you, say for instance, like my property is in a trust, and if somebody wanted to come and sue me because they fell at my
Right.
Airbnb and now they want
Right.
$1 million,
Correct.
they can't come after my property because it's in a trust.
Correct.
But they can come after my personal.
Exactly.
And I keep that limited, obviously.
Right,
You know?
exactly.
And so a trust, you can get it through an attorney, like you said.
Correct.
You can also go through third parties like LegalZone.
That's
if you don't
correct.
have the funds,
If you don't have the
I
funds,
mean,
correct.
and they're very affordable. Everything is online,
Right.
but it's still legit.
Right.
So,
but have it reviewed by someone,
Some-
even if it's
exactly.
a paralegal.
Yeah.
Because we have to make sure
Right.
that our ducks in a row. Anything
Exactly.
that serious,
That's
that's why
legal
I
and
can touch
binding.
on it with my clients because I do.
yeah.
I actually have a service for my clients that I would recommend to them if the insurance company does not have that available.
Right.
Some policies, the insurance company will provide that for them.
Right,
One
right.
of the things I also want to touch on when we talk about the trust situation, I have a client, basically, unfortunately, his mother went to have surgery and she, came out of the hospital a different person with all these assets. Nothing was in a trust, right? So, long story short, he's now paying over $8,000 a month for her care.
Oh, wow.
He did spend down. There's a term called spending down.
Yes, with Medicare and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's battling to try to get her, with Medicare. Yeah, Medicare. I'm not on the health side of things,
Right.
but
Yeah.
because of the industry, I kind
Right.
of keep
You
up
kinda
with
know.
some
Yeah,
of
yeah.
it. Unfortunately, if you do have family that have assets as your parents' age,
Yeah.
you really want to make sure that they have this together.
Yes.
Because you're going to be the one left holding the bag.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
they want their money.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
They do. And they will go back 3, 4, 5 years ago when you sold the house for your parent,
5 years.
to give them their, I guess you could say money so they can be cared for. And they want to
Absolutely.
know, well, what happened to that money? What'd you do
Absolutely.
with it? What bank account did it go into? Do you have receipts to show that
Right.
you've spent, X amount of dollars?
Absolutely.
So, and I only know this because I've been through it. You
Right,
know,
and the only
it's
reason
not
I
fun.
know, yeah, and the only reason I know is because I have friends that have gone through it,
Right.
Yeah.
clients that have gone through
Right.
it, and it's just terrible.
It
so
is,
you
it
just have
is.
to be prepared.
Yeah.
And what you have to understand is that life insurance is for the living.
Yes, yes.
It's for the living.
And not for the dead.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so speaking on that, I know we've talked when we spoke briefly about selling your policies,
Yes,
and speak about that.
about selling the insurance
Yes.
policies. You like and what?
So I know you were telling me about an example that, or you were working with someone and they were looking to sell their policy, or maybe that was something else. That
It
we
might
talked-
have been something else.
You
that we
can,
talked
like maybe
about.
borrowing against your
You
policy.
can do
maybe
that.
that.
Okay.
You
Yes,
can
yes,
definitely
yes,
do
yes, 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 yes. So with cash value policies, that could be a whole life or an IUL. Sorry. 50-50 and what God has done. So with a whole life or cash value policies, whether it's whole life or IUL, you can take money from those policies. And I kind of touched on it earlier. You can take money from those policies and do various things,
Okay.
right? But here's what I really want the listeners to focus on. Make sure you have the basics. Okay, make sure you have the basics. If I'm speaking to a couple and they don't have enough term life insurance, I'm not going to lead with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to lead with making sure it's a building block.
Yeah.
Let's get the
So
basics
what's the
covered.
basic? The basic is
It
to make sure that
depends.
you can bury this person
No,
and
not
the family doesn't take the hardship.
It depends. So
Okay.
I don't put people. It depends.
Everybody's situation,
Everyone is
circumstance is
situational.
different.
It's if you're a good agent, it's situational. It's not a one size
cookie
fit.
cutter.
It's not.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
It's not.
So there is no basic starting point when it comes to life insurance.
You want to make sure that you have enough to make sure no one is going to suffer when you die. You want to make sure that the debt is going to be taken care of if you can afford it.
Yeah.
Because over 60% of this country, well, really, I think it's 66% or 67% of this country is underinsured.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So there's
And that
that.
speaks volumes that obviously they can't afford it.
Exactly. And so, you know, we do get paid as an agent a little bit more when we sell a whole life, right? Or a cash value. Let's not just say whole life. When we sell cash value, we actually do get paid a little bit more. We have that lifetime residual.
Yeah.
So sometimes people can be a little disingenuous and not necessarily give people the right product and just kind of put everybody in a bucket. And I just don't believe in that.
Yeah.
I'm not team whole life. I'm not team IUL. I'm not team term. I'm team whatever my client needs.
Exactly.
That's what I
I
am.
love that. I love that. And so not switching gears a little bit, but switching gears a little bit because I know there's so many different facets to you and so many different things that you have going on.
Yes.
Also speaking from, we had our client that was on last week was dealing with some ailments and things of that sort. And he was dealing with ALS actually and living with it, I like to say. And one of the things we talked about was the mindset and him being able to keep his mindset, you know, in the right space. I know with you, we do have history from
yes,
the
we do.
90s.
From the
We've known each
90s.
other since the 1990s.
The 1900s.
Yes, 1900s.
1900s.
So speak a little bit about that, just a little bit of that journey what has led you into this. And I also know
Absolutely.
that alongside with the insurance, there's other opportunities that you offer people if they
Absolutely.
want to come in and be able to build some wealth
Right.
or
just
have an
say-
opportunity for themselves.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna touch on the fun stuff first, and then I'll go into that area. But so I've been with a company called Planet Marketing for the past year. So essentially, we help people save money and earn money on the travel entertainment. So there's like 3 buckets of people that join our family. So you have some people, they just want to save money on their travel and entertainment and be able to write it off.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Then we have people, I call them the bookers. They are booking luxury travel. And people don't talk about going to school for travel, but guess what? Our top travel agents are making over $400,000 a year.
Oh, I need to switch careers.
Right.
We'll talk, girl. We'll
Stick
talk.
to that.
But we also have our leaders in the company, and that's like 1% of the company. And those are the individuals like myself. And we actually are building a lifetime residual income by actually selling the agency to people that want to save and earn on their personal travel.
Excellent.
So when you talked about what has led me here, one of the reasons I got into life insurance, well, first of all, I've always loved people and I've always been a servant leader. Okay. And I'm known for that, you know, to serve.
Yeah.
I've been serving literally since the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just who I am. But what got me into life insurance, I wanted to actually stay home and be with my son.
Okay.
Because I had my first child when I was 16. I had my second child when I was 38.
Okay.
And I mean, I have been through some
gap.
things. It's a
I bet
big
you
gap.
have.
It's a big gap. But I wanted to be able to be home, but I didn't want to have to put all the financial responsibility on my husband, although he's a high income earner and he's doing, I mean, I'm good. We're good.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go to you and say, hey, I need my hair done. my nails
Yes,
done.
yes,
Exactly.
I know the feeling, honey.
You understand what I'm saying?
I
Like, that's
understand.
not what my mom.
understand.
That's not what my mom. You know, my mom didn't raise me to be that way.
Right.
My mom said, "Hey, you should be able to feed yourself. You know, be independent,
Right.
be fiscally responsible,
Yeah.
right?" So that's what led me to looking at life insurance, and I've been doing it for 12 years. And my demographic is parents and seniors because those are my hearts.
Yeah,
Excellent,
yeah.
excellent, excellent.
So what about the education? Like if anybody's aspiring to be an
yeah.
agent.
So with the travel business, you don't need education. You just
Okay.
need to have self-motivation.
Okay.
With the life insurance business, you could just take a class online, and basically that's it. Take a state test. You do have to have good credit or fairly decent credit, and you have to have a clean criminal record.
Oh, that's good information to
Good
know.
information.
Okay.
Well,
Awesome.
this has been another exciting episode of Unfiltered Conversations with Tina Knox. Be sure, she gave her number out, but we're going to make sure that information is listed below in the description. So that way, if anyone wants to come and connect with this field agent,
Right, field agent. That's
you know
right.
what I
I'm gonna
mean?
be
They
in
can
the
do that
field.
in the field, baby. Touching
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
I really
no problem.
appreciate you, ladies. I really do. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.